When do you start painting this pair of paintings that you have here?
I started this one and another one we'll look at in the summer when I was working on the Mylar pieces, which are more about mapping. But I wanted to do some different work on canvas. The other ones are all on Mylar and double layers or triple layers. And this is a bit of a different view. I was thinking more that they might be aerial views, so if you're above or in a plane or whatever, looking down on the land, and I've got lots of layers happening here. I liked to work with words for many years, so I have words that I've put in the piece on the canvas first, then I've gessoed over and sanded, and then I started collaging these grid and circular papers on. They're handmade paper, but again thinking of the land and all the different layers of the land and the geography, and then the grid and the circles go back to some of the marks that I had in the Mylar pieces. So I was trying to tie in these paintings with the other work in the show. So this one I'm not sure if it's finished. I mean, I really like what's happening here. Like the colors I've used, and I've introduced another grid, and then all the layers and the texture. I think this one's more, about the texture and the layers. And maybe there's some other marks I might want to add to this one, so I'm just going to leave it for a little while and think about it. But then we can look at the other one that I have in the show right now, and I think it's finished, so we'll have a look at that next. And I titled it Letting Things Take Their Course. So it comes from a quote that I have in my journal, I've had for a while, where it says, "The world is ruled by letting things take their course." So again, I said I think this is finished. I'm not sure. Maybe I might want to add more to it. But anyways, it started off the same as the first one we just looked at, with lots of layers and textures, and then I wanted to try this new mark making on top, and taped it off. You can see this very subtle grid, and then used a balsa wood tool to more or less stamp the marks on. And but of course I didn't intend for people to read the words. To me it was just another technique to add some marks to the piece and another layer on top. So there is more color underneath, and then this sepia colored marks on top of it, which kind of maybe looks like another language or hieroglyphics, something like that. But I'm happy with the way it is, and maybe it'll stay like this, maybe it won't. So I hope you're able to come down and see the show and check this out. You might want to come up really close and have a look and see what's under there.
Pieces are landscapes, but I'm not interested in replicating a photo. I'm not interested in creating a picture per se. I'm interested in trying to recreate an experience that I have had being there. And so usually I have dramatic light. I'm very interested in using color to try and evoke an experience of what it was like being there. And so I like to have a quality of light of the time of day, the time of year, so that it elicits a response in the viewer of being there at a certain time of day, at a certain time of year, having a kind of experience, a sensual awareness, a kind of like heightened sensual and sensitive awareness. So far I don't have many figures in my pieces. So in that sense, they kind of are in the lineage of, I guess you could say, the group of 7, because they're more about kind of being out in nature and the experience, kind of an existential state of being aware of yourself and your body in space, in this nature around us, right? But quite often, it's also wilderness for me. Like this one here is the Tofino sunset, and it's about just realizing we're on the west side of the continent, and when the sun sets, it's like there's nothing out there but the Pacific, you know, and you're just kind of left there like, wow. It's just like the end of the world, and that time of day when it's just like just a tiny little shot of sun left, just a little glimmer, like a little opening in the world. I'm also kind of interested in night versus day. I often have a lot of darker colors because I'm very interested in the feeling or the aspect of the nighttime, and how that is kind of, it also elicits a certain kind of emotional response, and it's also almost like a psychic space, the nighttime. So that's another, trying to gain another, like there's different ways we describe space as artists, or perspective, but I think there's also a psychic space, and that comes from kind of a psychic feeling in work that is a heightened emotional kind of response to being there at a certain time, and we're kind of beyond ourselves in a sense. I also like to have in some of my work the contrast of the built environment with the natural environment. I'm a gardener, so I love plants. I love nature that way, but I also find it fascinating how we in the cities always experience nature contrasted with the built environment. So it's the hard edge and the lines versus the, more exuberant foliage, the colorful foliage versus the pavement, the concrete, the poles. That always interests me. And that creates quite a dynamic composition too. So I'm always interested in a dynamic composition in some way. So in a way, I'm always kind of referring to the edges of a canvas. Some people like a flat overall experience of the canvas. Some people like a motif in the center, some artists. But I kind of like referring always to the edges, so it's kind of, there's lots of dynamic stuff going on, like there's often diagonal lines, or the color is kind of streaking across or something, just to create quite a dynamic tension within the piece. I work quite a few layers. These look simple in a lot of ways, but I work really hard to get the colors right. Like this has got probably 4 to 5 layers on it to get this kind of rich, there's kind of reds, there's blues, and the clouds, and even this color here. And then over here, the pavement, to get that kind of quality. It's a matte color, but it's got several layers of color in there. And same with the sky, to get those colors. So I fiddle around a lot with my colors, trying to get something that works well. Not only for the painting, but how it's going to read as a painting to the person viewing it.
Can you tell us, what are you hiding?
I love that question. Oh my gosh, I'm hiding everything. I've hidden everything my whole life. I've hidden myself. That's great. What I like about making this kind of work is that there's a mystery to it, and I like having to work at looking for things in my own work. I like having to get close to it, and I do. I like the whole the hidden. I made a series of work once called Hidden, and it was all about making a painting and then obscuring it with something or other. So I guess I'm doing this too. I'm just giving it. It's more fun to try and find out what's going on by looking through the laciness of the paper. This this piece is actually based on identity again as well. The cut paper is based on my signature that I had when I was a little girl, so I recreated that, and then I cut out parts of it, so I know what it says. I know what the name that I was called is, and And like most of my work, I'm trying to figure out who I am. It still sounds so new age-ish and things like that. But you know, I got to a point in my life where I hadn't things happened that I hadn't expected to happen, and I was faced with figuring out how I was going to spend the rest of my life. And I find that making art is a great way for me to do that. And I'm fascinated with mystery and uncomfortableness and trying to figure it out. And I know that I never will. I never will figure it out. But the process and the journey of figuring out is fun. And I've known for a long time that I am just a maker. So I like to make things. And I like to make things with my hands. I like to make detail, and I like to try and make the perfect thing, knowing that it will never be perfect. I like trying to make the perfect circle, knowing that I've never made a perfect circle in my life, or cut a perfect circle. So I think I'm really enjoying making these paintings right now, and I've got a few more on the go, and it's the obsessiveness also of my personality that I like making lots of the same things, but I'm having a lot of fun and just a lot of joy out of it. Yeah, thanks.